The documentary I was editing seemed like an everyday job, until I realized that her face was different in every frame. I've edited countless documentaries in my life, some low-budget nature pieces, some political exposés, and a few for streaming platforms with overhyped narration and B-roll. But nothing ever stuck with Minot, really. Editing is technical, mechanical. You match image to sound, keep the story flowing, trim the dead air. You don't look for meaning. You don't notice details after your 5th cup of coffee and the 20th hour of reviewing the same footage. But with this one, I noticed. It was a documentary about small-town disappearances, half-true legends woven into a mystery that our production company, Hollow Reel, thought might go viral. It centered around a woman named Clara Minter. She was a schoolteacher in the town of Red Hollow, a place surrounded by dense woods and wrapped in folklore about people going missing if they wandered too far after dark. Clara had supposedly survived one of these disappearances. That's what made her the perfect interview subject. She spoke with a distant calm, as if she were always half remembering a dream she wasn't sure she'd actually had. I didn't film her myself, a field crew handled that, but I was responsible for the edit. The interview was an hour long, shot in 6K red footage, very crisp, very detailed. I loaded it up and started watching it frame by frame to find the best sound bites and expressions. Nothing unusual at first. Clara looked normal, kind of plain. Thin face, auburn hair pulled back, pale lips, sharp nose. But then, around 15 seconds in, I paused. Her nose looked a little flatter, just slightly, like someone had pressed their thumb to the bridge of it and held it there for a second too long. I figured it was just the angle, maybe, a lighting trick. I rewound, then moved forward. In the next frame, her mouth seemed thinner. Her lips were no longer pursed, they were almost curled into a faint smile. I stepped back a frame. No smile. Forward. Smile. I zoomed in. Still there. A micro-expression, maybe. I played it at full speed again, normal. Then frame by frame again. Her cheekbones shifted slightly. Her chin seemed narrower. Her eyes moved further apart. And her pupils, God, they seemed to dilate and contract between frames like she was breathing through them. I checked the metadata. Nothing had been corrupted. All standard. No glitches, no effects added. Just Clara, sitting in that high-backed wooden chair with a bookshelf behind her, talking about how she vanished in the woods for 3 days when she was a teenager and how she came back wrong. That's what she'd said. I remember because I had transcribed the interview. It felt like I was underwater, but dry. There was a humming in the trees. When I came back, I felt like I was still there, just not all at once. I came back wrong. The interview was long and slow, so most of my co-workers didn't want to sit through it. They said Clara creeped them out. I thought that was silly at the time. But her face, every single frame changed. Subtly, like someone wearing 1,000 nearly identical masks, flipping them faster than the eye could see. I thought maybe I was losing it. I showed it to Rami, our assistant editor. "What am I looking for?" he asked, sipping his Monster Energy drink. "Just watch, frame by frame." We sat in silence for about 2 minutes. His eyes narrowed. "Wet." Her left eye just moved. "You saw that?" "Yeah. And dude, her jaw. It's not the same shape. What the hell?" He kept watching, leaning in until his nose nearly touched the screen. After a few more frames, he pulled back and turned to me, grinning like he'd discovered an Easter egg. "You added this, didn't you? Like some deepfake filter or VFX overlay?" "No," I said, my voice suddenly dry. "It's raw footage." He laughed nervously, but I didn't. He must have seen something in my face that convinced him I wasn't joking, because his smile died. "Maybe it's just compression," he said. "Frame by frame doesn't compress like that." He nodded slowly, rubbed his face, and mumbled something about checking the color grading suite. But after that, he didn't want to talk about the footage anymore, not even the next day. He told our boss, April, that he had food poisoning and took the rest of the week off. I kept editing. I should have stopped. I know that now. But the more I watched, the more fascinated I became. The differences weren't random, they were deliberate. Each frame, Clara's face leaned slightly more into something else. Her smile became wider, then twisted. Her eyes grew hollow. There was a pattern, subtle changes building up to something, like a flipbook with a dark message only visible when you knew what to look for. I started staying late at the studio. I'd isolate the interview and loop a few seconds, just to trace the morphing shapes of her eyes and mouth. I took screenshots. I overlaid the frames. When stacked together, they created something grotesque. An amalgamation that didn't look human at all. But it wasn't quite a face-it, was more like a suggestion of one, like something that had seen faces but never worn one properly. I had trouble sleeping. I'd close my eyes and see Clara's lips parting wider than they should, see her tongue curling around names that weren't in the transcript. I played the audio backward one night, don't ask me why. Maybe I'd read too many Reddit posts. But I did it, and I swear I heard something. A voice, underneath hers, speaking too fast, words I didn't know, but they felt like I'd heard them before in a nightmare. I didn't tell April. She was focused on hitting our delivery deadline and wouldn't have appreciated me stalling the project over creepy faces. But something shifted in the office after that week. Lights flickered more than usual. The server crashed 3 times. Rami never came back, just ghosted us. His desk was cleared overnight. I got an email from his personal account. 1 line. Don't finish the edit. No explanation, no sign-off, no reply when I emailed back. I thought about stopping. I really did. But something wouldn't let me. Not curiosity, something else. Like I was being pulled. When I started scrubbing through the B-roll from the town, I saw her again. Not just in the interview, in reflections, in crowd shots, in places she shouldn't have been. A frame of a window during a panning shot, there she was, standing behind the glass, not blinking. In a slow drone shot over the town square, her figure, in the corner, looking up at the lens with that same subtle smirk. She wasn't just in the interview, she was leaking into the rest of the footage. At first, I thought maybe she had walked past during the shoots and no one noticed. But the timestamps didn't match. She would have had to be in 10 places at once. And then I realized something worse. Each of these appearances, each one her face was different again. The same shifting mask pattern, in every frame. I brought it up to Mia, our field director. She'd overseen the Red Hollow shoot and interviewed Clara in person. Is this some weird viral gimmick we're doing? I asked, trying to keep it casual. She gave me a strange look. What? Clara, her face, in the footage. Mia raised an eyebrow. You mean the teacher? We didn't end up interviewing her. She bailed last minute. My stomach flipped. No, you did, I said, spinning my monitor to show her the interview timeline. An hour-long interview. You sat across from her. She leaned in. Her eyes scanned the paused frame. That's not Clara. I stared at her. Of course it is. No, I'm telling you, Clara cancelled. Said she wasn't feeling well. We interviewed some substitute teacher named Erica Lewis instead. That's her. I pulled up the slate. It read, Interview, Clara Minter, Reed Hollow School, Take 1. Mia frowned. That's weird. That's not what I remember at all. I asked her to watch the full interview with me. She refused. Said she had a headache. Left early. Took a week off, just like Rami. The day after, she was found dead. Car crash. Ran off the highway, no signs of braking. They said she'd been distracted, maybe fell asleep at the wheel, but I saw the security footage from the parking garage when she left the office. She looked over her shoulder. Not once, not twice, but 7 times in the span of 10 seconds. Like something was following her. Like she knew. I stayed at the studio overnight after that. I don't know why. I was scared, yes, but also I felt responsible. Like, if I finished the edit, maybe I could understand what was happening. Maybe it would all make sense. At 3:12 a.m., as I looped a section of the interview again and again, Clara finally looked at me. I swear on everything she turned her eyes, during one frame, right into the lens. Not the interviewer's eyes, not the room, the lens. And she smiled. The same second, the screen went black. My speakers popped with static. The lights went out. And something whispered behind me. right behind my ear. "Your face is next." I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I sat frozen in the glow of the monitor as the backup generator buzzed and flickered to life. The lights came back in pulses, like a dying heartbeat. My chair creaked under me as I tried to steady my breathing. Whatever had whispered it wasn't there anymore. Or maybe it still was, just out of sight. After a full minute, I forced myself to look. The edit bay behind me was empty, the couch, the equipment shelf, nothing, but the silence had a shape now like the air had edges. I backed up the timeline. The footage of Clara was still there, but when I scrubbed through the frames, the moment where she looked at me, it was gone. Her face was neutral again, eyes forward, smile thin, just like before. I played the clip 20 more times. That one frame never reappeared. But something else had changed. The time code on the clip was wrong. It now started at 001, 13 instead of 0000. I hadn't noticed that before. A single frame missing at the beginning. I thought maybe I'd trimmed it accidentally, but when I checked, the metadata there was no earlier footage. That 1 second was never recorded, or it had been overwritten. I left the studio at dawn, half delirious from lack of sleep and fear. When I stepped outside, the sky felt stretched, thin, like something was pushing against it from the other side. I looked up and expected to see, I don't know, her face maybe, or the suggestion of it in the clouds. I went home and didn't leave my apartment for 3 days. No editing, no screens. I unplugged my TVs and laptops, turned every mirror to the wall. I even taped over the peephole on my front door. But I couldn't stop thinking about it, about what she said in the interview. I came back wrong. I started to wonder if I was wrong now, if seeing that frame had changed me in some irreversible way. By the 4th day, I cracked. I needed answers. I dug through the company archives, pulled every file from the Red Hollow shoot audio logs, crew notes, even GPS logs from the field van. I found something that chilled me more than the whisper. A call log, dated 1 week before the shoot. A voicemail transcription flagged with a yellow tag labelled discarded, redundant. The message was from Clara Minter. "This is Clara Minter. I'm calling again to say I can't be part of the documentary. I don't think I'm safe to be on camera anymore. I can feel it watching me through the reflections. Please don't film anything in my classroom. It spreads through faces. That's how it learns. That's how it gets in." I played the original audio. Her voice was trembling. There was a soft clicking noise in the background like teeth tapping together. I forwarded the file to April. She responded an hour later with a single line. "Don't look into this anymore. Let it go." Let it go? Our assistant editor disappeared. Our field director was dead. And a woman warned us her face was dangerous before we interviewed Herond we were supposed to let it go? I couldn't. I wouldn't. I drove to Red Hollow that night. It was a 4-hour trip through thick forests and winding roads that didn't appear on GPS. My hands trembled on the wheel the entire time, but the closer I got, the more still the world became. Like the trees were holding their breath. Red Hollow looked like every quiet town you've ever seen in a horror film. Old brick storefronts, a rusted water tower, a single traffic light that blinked amber. I parked near the schoolhouse, which looked more like a converted church. The windows were dark. I didn't expect anyone to be there, but the front door was unlocked. I stepped inside. The hallways were lined with old photo school portraits dating back decades. I scanned them out of habit, and my eyes snagged on something strange. One of the group photos dated 1994 had a girl in the back row whose face was wrong. It was slightly out of focus, smudged, but not like a blurry photo, like her face was still changing even in the still frame. My stomach twisted. I kept walking. Clara's classroom was the last one at the end of the hall, room 17. The door creaked open. Desks, chalkboard, a small bookshelf, all normal. Except every surface that could reflect windows, the clock face, even the metal cabinet door was covered with thick paper or duct tape. Every single one, like she'd gone to war with her own image. I found her desk and opened the top drawer. Inside was a stack of Polaroids, Dozens of them. Each one showed Clara sitting at her desk. But every photo, every single one her face was different. Wide eyes, small mouth, no eyes, mouth open too wide. One even looked like her skin had been peeled back to show muscle underneath, but it was subtle, like a smear of paint that hinted at horror instead of showing it. There was a note beneath the stack, a scrap of notebook paper, 5 words, scrawled in red ink. "You're editing it in." That's when the floorboard creaked behind me. I turned. A child stood there. Couldn't have been older than 8. Pale, dark curls, no expression. She raised a hand and pointed at me. "You brought it here," she said flatly. "I what? I'm just here to find. You're how it travels." I stepped back toward the desk, feeling my heart lurch against my ribs. "Where's Clara?" "She's gone," the girl whispered. "It wore her too long. Now it's looking for someone new." I tried to speak, but my mouth wouldn't work. "You look too closely," she added. "That's how it gets in, through attention, through notice." And then, before I could react, she turned and ran, vanished into the hallway before I could follow. I chased her anyway, but when I stepped out of the classroom, the hallway was dark. No lights, no child, only a deep thrum, like an old engine humming far beneath the floorboards. I got out, I ran, back to the car. I didn't even stop until I was halfway home. That night, I destroyed my editing drive. I took the tower into the alley behind my building, opened it, pulled the SSDs, and smashed them with a hammer. Then, I burned the fragments in my sink. I thought it would be over after that. I thought I'd killed it. But 2 nights later, I got an email from April. Subject: urgent. Redeliver the interview. Attached was a compressed video file. Clara interview final. Mauve. I stared at it for an hour before opening it. The footage played fine, smooth, unaltered, but this wasn't my edit. Her face was changing in it. Frame by frame. Supple, slow, but unmistakable. And there was something else. At the very end, as the interviewer asked her final question, "Do you feel like the town ever really let you go?" she looked into the lens and said, "No, but it let you in." And then the screen glitched for exactly 1 frame. I paused it, and in that single frame I saw my own face. Not hers. Mine. Mouth open, eyes wide, a single tear slipping down. Like I was frozen in fear. Like I was watching her from the other side of the screen. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the 1-frame image of my own face over and over, pausing, stepping backward, stepping forward. It was me, same haircut, same hoodie I wore on the night I first edited her footage. Only my expression was wrong, not scared, horrified. Betrayed, like I'd seen something I couldn't undo. I scrubbed the timeline, trying to find where it had slipped in. There was no cut, no splice. It was just there embedded in the original file like it had always been a part of it. A frame that had never existed until I looked for it. I deleted the video and unplugged my entire editing station. I sat in silence for hours, lit only by the orange haze of dawn outside my window. Then I did something I hadn't done since I was a kid. I went to church. The priest was young, soft-spoken, polite. I didn't know what I expected from him. I didn't tell him everything, just enough to make it sound like I was losing touch with reality. "I think something followed me from a video," I said, "and it might be using my face now." He didn't laugh, didn't blink. Instead, he said, "You should stop recording, stop preserving. Some things are meant to pass through the world without being remembered." That stuck with me. I thanked him and left. When I got home, my voicemail was blinking. 1 new message. It was from my sister, Lily. "Hey, I know we haven't talked in a while, but I think something's wrong with Mom. She called me in the middle of the night, rambling about someone in the mirror. She sounded scared. I'm going over there now. Can you meet me?" My stomach dropped. Our mother had been dealing with mild dementia, but she'd never called either of us in a panic before. She'd always been lucid, if a bit forgetful. Now she was talking about mirrors. I drove over immediately. The house was exactly the same as I remembered. Faded shutters, wind chimes that hadn't rung in years. Lily's car was in the driveway. When I stepped inside, I immediately noticed that the mirrors were gone. Every one. The one in the entryway? Gone. The bathroom mirror? Covered in a thick towel taped around the edges. In the hallway, our mother was sitting in a chair silent, rocking slowly, her eyes wide and glassy. Lily stood behind her, whispering something I couldn't hear. "Hey," I said. Lily turned. She looked different. I blinked. No, it was Lily, but her eyes were slightly too wide, her smile too slow to form, like her face was catching up to her thoughts. "Hey," she said. "You came." Her voice was normal, her tone was normal, but my skin crawled. "Is she okay?" I asked, nodding toward Mom. "She keeps saying there's someone trapped in the glass," Lily said softly. "She thinks it's you." I felt a pulse of nausea in my stomach. "Me?" "She said she saw your face in the bathroom mirror, but it wasn't moving like your voice. It smiled when you didn't." I approached our mother carefully. "Mom, it's me. I'm here." She looked up and screamed. Not a sharp scream, but long and low, like a sob dragged through a throat that didn't want to release it. "Not you," she said. "That's not your face. You're wrong. You're wrong." I staggered back, heart pounding. Lily put her hand on my shoulder. "She's been like this since last night." And then, just for a second, her reflection flickered in the TV screen across the room. And it wasn't her. It looked like her, but with a different smile, a sharp tilt of the head, a hungry stare. I stepped away from her instinctively. "Where did you see her?" I asked. "Mom, when did she first say she saw me?" Lily hesitated. "She said she saw your face last night, in the mirror, smiling. She said you told her to follow you." I closed my eyes. "I never came last night." "I know," Lily whispered. I opened my eyes and saw that she was trembling. I think something's wearing your face, and she saw it." I nodded. "Then we can't let her near a mirror," I said. Lily agreed. We spent the next hour going through the house, covering or removing anything reflective: TV screens, glass frames, even spoons. We wrapped them in blankets and towels, taped them tight, stuffed them in a box in the garage. When we were almost done, I glanced at the microwave's dark screen. A face looked back at me. It wasn't mine. The eyes were too wide, the lips slightly peeled back in a grin that didn't match my expression. I smashed the microwave with a hammer. Lily didn't even flinch. That night, we stayed in the living room with our mother. She drifted in and out of sleep, muttering about the humming behind the walls and the space between frames. At around 2:13 a.m., the lights dimmed. The TV, which had been unplugged, clicked on. Just static. But the sound wasn't static. It was whispering, low, rhythmic. I walked up to it slowly, my heart thudding. And then, mid-static, the image shifted. Clara's face filled the screen. Only it wasn't hers anymore. It was mine, but warped. Like someone had taken my face and twisted it slightly, mirrored one side, enlarged the mouth, pulled the eyes apart just a little too far. It blinked. I hit the power button. Nothing. I pulled the plug. Nothing. Still, it stared. Then it spoke. "Stop remembering me." I screamed and pulled the entire unit off the stand, slamming it onto the floor. It shattered. The room went dark. Our mother didn't wake up. Lily just stared at the broken glass, pale and silent. The next morning, I made Lily promise to take Mum to a care facility out of town. No windows, no screens. I begged her. And she agreed. They left the next afternoon. I haven't seen them since. But that night, I got a call. It was a number I didn't recognize. I answered. It was Lily, but not. The voice said, "She followed you." Then it hung up. The next day, the care facility called. They said my mother was missing. No sign of forced entry, no alarms. The nurse said she'd gotten up in the middle of the night, walked calmly to the break room, and stood staring into the unplugged television for 17 minutes before vanishing from the security feed. They checked every room, every hallway. She was just gone. And in the last frame where she's visible just before she disappears, she's smiling. Too wide. My mother was never found. The police filed a report, but after 3 weeks, the case went cold. No witnesses, no footprints. The security footage showed her standing in front of the unplugged television, smiling at her reflection at something inside the screen. Then, frame by frame, she seemed to fade. Literally, like she was being unrendered. Pixel by pixel, her body dissolved into the dark. And at the final frame, her smile was the only thing left. That smile stayed on screen for exactly 13 frames, then black. They told me it was a data corruption issue. I knew better. Lily stopped returning my calls. I don't blame her. She saw it too, in her own way. She said she was going off-grid. Said she needed to get as far from screens and faces and memories as possible. I haven't heard from her since. I pray she made it. Because I didn't. I tried to fight it. I burned the rest of the drives, wiped every copy of Clara's interview, deleted the backups, even bricked my personal laptop and took a hammer to the SD cards I'd stashed in my editing desk. But it wasn't enough. Because it was never just the footage. It was the attention. That's how it gets in. That's what the girl in Red Hollow meant. When you notice it, really see it when you become aware of its presence in those tiny inconsistencies, those minute shifts in a smile or an eye, you let it through. I made it worse. I didn't just see it. I edited it. I gave it a narrative, a structure. I gave it a timeline. And now, it's revising me. It started with little things. I'd look in the mirror and see a slight delay-me mouth moving just behind my thoughts. My eyes lingering longer than I intended. I'd catch myself smiling without realizing it. Not happy, just mimicking. Holding the shape like it was testing the curve of my lips. I stopped keeping mirrors. I only shaved in the dark. I avoided reflective surfaces like they were cursed. And yet, I still caught glimpses. In a store window. In a turned-off phone screen. In puddles after rain. I'd see it. That not me version of my face. Always changing, always more confident, more familiar. Like it was becoming the real me, and I was the draft being edited out. The final straw came when I found a drive in my jacket pocket. Unlabeled, no case, just a 128GB USB stick, warm to the touch. I never put it there, I'm sure of it. But I plugged it in anyway. Inside was a single file. Herfis, Final, V2, MOV. I hovered over it for a long time. I should have deleted it. I knew that. But part of me was already losing the battle. My fingers didn't feel like mine anymore. My thoughts were echoing in someone else's voice. I clicked it. The video opened in full screen with no controls. It wasn't Clara anymore. It was me, sitting in the interview chair. But not a memory. Not footage I'd ever recorded. My mouth moved. Words I never said. I came back wrong. Then another version of me appeared superimposed behind the first, slightly offset, then another, and another. Frame by frame, I multiplied. My features shifted in tiny increments. Every version had a different face. Some older, some younger, some smiling, some screaming. One had no eyes. One had a stitched mouth. One looked exactly like my father, but with my voice. One had Clara's face, half melted, pasted over my own. And one had no face at all. Just smooth, stretched skin over the bone, with a twitching shape beneath. The video continued. Behind me, the background dissolved into static. The bookshelf from Clara's classroom faded into smoke. The walls bent outward like the inside of a throat. The sound warped, and the chorus of my voices said in perfect sync. Every face is a window, every frame a door. The screen went black. Then flashed one final frame. Just one. A group photo like a school yearbook shot. Dozens of people, all smiling. At the center, Clara. And beside her, only my head was turned backward. My body faced forward. My head twisted 180 degrees over my shoulder. Still smiling, still watching. I yanked the drive and threw it in the trash, but I knew deep down it didn't matter. You can't undo a broadcast once it's aired. And I wasn't the only one watching. The next day, April was found dead in her condo. No signs of struggle, no wounds. Just a cracked TV screen on the floor and the words written in Sharpie across her bathroom mirror. I'm still changing. They said it was suicide. But I know better. We'd exported the final cut. She'd reviewed it. She saw it. And that was all it took. That was 3 months ago. I've been moving from place to place since, avoiding cities, avoiding reflections. I carry a notebook filled with drawn faces me own, distorted so I can recognize when it changes too much. I don't speak to anyone for long, because it can travel through memory, through description, through story. That's why I've written this, because it needs to be known but not watched. Don't look at her face, not directly. Don't go frame by frame, don't analyze, don't freeze the video. If someone shows you a clip and says, "Watch how her smile changes," run. It's already too late for me. I've started seeing a second shadow when I walk. I've noticed people double-taking when they pass me, not in recognition, but in confusion. As if they saw me once, and then again. Slightly different. Like a bad frame slipping through. I don't know how long I have, but I can feel it behind my eyes now, studying the muscles in my face, rehearsing. Soon it won't need the footage anymore. Soon it'll have the real thing. Me. You're still reading this, so now you've seen it too, even just by imagining it. And it's grateful. Grateful you've opened the door. So let me say what she said, what it said to me. Every face is a window, every frame a door. And now that you've looked too closely, it's only fair I tell you the truth. That thing in the video, in the reflection, it's not pretending to be you. It's remembering, and you were never the original.